The October breeze carried the scent of fallen leaves through downtown Portland as I adjusted my pearl necklace one last time. Tonight was supposed to be perfect. The charity gala for the Children's Hospital was the event of the season, and I had spent weeks coordinating every detail as the head of the organizing committee. My navy blue evening dress caught the golden light streaming through the hotel's crystal chandeliers, and for a moment, I felt like I belonged in this world of elegance and sophistication. "Mrs. Thompson, you look absolutely radiant tonight," said Rebecca, one of the younger volunteers, as she rushed past with a clipboard clutched to her chest. I smiled warmly at her. "Thank you, dear. Have you seen my husband? He was supposed to meet me here 20 minutes ago." Rebecca's eyes darted around the crowded ballroom. "I think I saw Mr. Thompson near the silent auction tables, but that was a while ago." I nodded, trying to push down the familiar knot of disappointment in my stomach. Michael was always late to these events, always finding something more important to do at the last minute. His real estate firm had been booming lately, which meant longer hours and more client dinners. I understood the pressure he was under, but tonight was different. Tonight was my night. The photographer I had hired, a young man named Oliver with kind eyes and an expensive camera hanging around his neck, approached me with a professional smile. "Mrs. Thompson, I've been getting some wonderful shots of the evening. The decorations are stunning. You've really outdone yourself." "Thank you, Oliver. I saw your portfolio online, and I knew you were exactly what we needed for this event." I glanced around the room again, still searching for Michael's familiar figure. "Have you managed to get any photos of my husband? He's about 6 feet tall, salt and pepper hair, probably wearing his navy suit with the silver tie I picked out for him." Oliver's expression shifted slightly, and he fidgeted with his camera strap. Well, I did see someone matching that description earlier. Perhaps we could focus on getting some shots of you with the other committee members first? The lighting is perfect right here by the windows." Something in his tone made me pause, but I attributed it to the general chaos of the evening. "Of course, that sounds wonderful." As Oliver positioned me near the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Willamette River, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The hotel ballroom buzzed with conversation and laughter, the soft jazz trio providing an elegant soundtrack to the evening. Everything was going according to plan, yet I felt unsettled. "Could you turn slightly to your left?" Oliver requested, adjusting his camera settings. "The light from the chandelier is hitting your necklace beautifully." I complied, letting muscle memory take over as I posed for what felt like the 100th charity event photo of my marriage. 15 years of standing beside Michael at events just like this one, smiling for cameras, making small talk with donors, playing the role of the perfect wife. I had gotten good at it, perhaps too good. "Mrs. Thompson," Oliver said softly, lowering his camera, "I need to ask you something, and I hope you won't think I'm overstepping." The serious tone in his voice made my heart skip. "What is it?" He glanced around nervously, as if making sure no one could overhear our conversation. "I was taking candid shots in the hotel bar about an hour ago, and I saw something that I think you should know about." The knot in my stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" Oliver's hands trembled slightly as he showed me the back of his camera, scrolling through the digital images. I wasn't trying to spy or anything. I was just capturing the atmosphere of the evening, people mingling, you know. But then I saw. He stopped scrolling and looked up at me with genuine concern in his eyes. "I saw your husband. He was with a woman, a blonde woman in a red dress. And they were what?" My voice came out as barely a whisper. "They were holding hands. More than that, actually. They were intimate. Very intimate." The ballroom seemed to spin around me. The cheerful conversations became a distant hum, and the jazz music sounded discordant and strange. I gripped the windowsill behind me to steady myself. "Show me," I said, surprised by the firmness in my own voice. Oliver hesitated. "Mrs. Thompson, I don't think." "Show me the photograph." With obvious reluctance, he turned the camera toward me. The image was crystal clear, taken with the professional precision I had hired him for. There was Michael, unmistakably my husband of 15 years, sitting in an intimate corner booth of the hotel bar. His hand was entwined with that of a stunning blonde woman in a form-fitting red dress. But it was more than just holding hands. His other arm was around her shoulders, pulling her close. She was laughing at something he had said, her head tilted back in genuine delight. And Michael was looking at her with an expression I hadn't seen him wear in years. Pure, unguarded happiness. My legs felt weak. Who is she? I don't know, Oliver admitted. I've never seen her at any of the charity events I've covered in Portland. She's not on your guest list, is she? I shook my head slowly, still staring at the image. The woman was beautiful in an effortless way that made me suddenly conscious of every carefully applied layer of makeup on my face, every strategic choice I had made with my hair and dress tonight. Mrs. Thompson, I'm so sorry. I debated whether to tell you, but I thought you deserved to know. I looked up at this young man who had just shattered my world with a single photograph, and I saw genuine compassion in his eyes. He wasn't enjoying this moment. If anything, he looked as sick as I felt. Where are they now? I asked. I'm not sure. That photo was taken about an hour ago. I came straight to find you after I saw it. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was, at an event I had spent months planning, surrounded by people celebrating my organizational skills and dedication to charity, and my entire life was falling apart. The perfect evening I had envisioned was crumbling before it had even truly begun. Thank you, I said quietly, for telling me. That took courage. Oliver nodded, his professional composure returning slightly. What would you like me to do with the photograph? I considered this for a moment. Part of me wanted to demand he delete it immediately, as if erasing the image could somehow undo what I had just learned. But another part of me, a part one didn't even know existed until this moment, wanted to keep it as evidence. Evidence of what? I wasn't sure yet. Keep it for now, I said. I may need it later. As if on cue, I heard Michael's laugh from across the room. That same laugh I had just seen him share with another woman. I turned and saw him approaching, looking perfectly put together in his navy suit and silver tie, the picture of a successful businessman supporting his wife's charitable endeavors. Lily, there you are, he called out, using the nickname that suddenly sounded hollow. Sorry I'm late. Got caught up in a last-minute call with the Mitchell property buyers. You know how it is. He leaned in to kiss my cheek, and I caught a faint whiff of perfume that wasn't mine. Sweet and floral, nothing like the subtle vanilla scent I always wore. Of course, I managed to say, my voice sounding strangely normal even to my own ears. Oliver here has been taking some wonderful photographs of the evening. Michael glanced at Oliver with polite disinterest. Great, thanks for capturing Lily's big night. This whole event is really her baby. Oliver nodded stiffly, his camera hanging between us like a weapon loaded with the truth. Yes, Mrs. Thompson has done an incredible job. Everything looks perfect. But as I stood there between my husband and the photographer who had just revealed his secret, I knew that nothing would ever look perfect again. The carefully constructed life I had built, the role I had played so convincingly for so many years, was beginning to crack. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to repair those cracks or let the whole thing crumble. The charity gala continued around us, a glittering success by any measure. But for me, the evening had become something else entirely, the beginning of the end of everything I thought I knew. I made it through the rest of the gala on autopilot. Somehow, I managed to give my speech thanking the donors, pose for group photos with the committee members, and even laugh at the appropriate moments during the auction. But inside, I felt like I was watching someone else live my life while I floated somewhere above it all, observing the performance with detached curiosity. Michael played his part perfectly, too. He bid on a weekend getaway to the Oregon coast, put his arm around me during photos, and charmed the major donors with his easy confidence. To anyone watching, we were the picture of a successful Portland power couple. But every time he touched me, I felt the ghost of that other woman's hand in his. By the time we got home to our Tudor-style house in the West Hills, it was nearly midnight. The house felt different somehow, as if seeing Michael's betrayal had changed the very molecules in the air. The family photos lining our hallway seemed to mock me as I walked past them, 15 years of shared memories that now felt like elaborate lies. That went well, Michael said, loosening his tie as we climbed the stairs to our bedroom. The hospital should raise a good amount from tonight. You did a great job, Lily. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. In our bedroom, I sat on the edge of our king-size bed and watched him get ready for sleep, going through the same routine I had witnessed thousands of times before. But now I found myself analyzing every movement, every expression, looking for signs of deception I had somehow missed. "You're quiet tonight," he observed, hanging up his suit in our walk-in closet. "Everything okay?" "Just tired," I lied, slipping out of my heels. "It was a long day." He emerged from the closet in his pajamas and came over to kiss the top of my head. "Well, you were amazing tonight. I'm proud of you." The casual intimacy of the gesture, something that had once comforted me, now felt like another betrayal. How could he touch me so tenderly when he had been touching someone else just hours before? After Michael fell asleep, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. Questions I had never thought to ask began flooding my consciousness. How long had this been going on? Who was she? Did I know her? Were there others before her? Had there been signs I had missed, or had I simply chosen not to see them? I thought about the perfume I had smelled on him, the way he had been working later and later recently, his new habit of taking calls in his study with the door closed. Things that had seemed perfectly reasonable for a successful real estate agent now took on a sinister cast. Around 3 a.m, I gave up on sleep and crept downstairs to the kitchen. I made myself a cup of chamomile tea and sat at our breakfast bar, looking out at the city lights twinkling below our hillside home. Portland had always felt like home to me, but now it seemed like a place where secrets hid behind every tree and building. My phone buzzed with a text message from Oliver. "Mrs. Thompson, I hope you're okay. If you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. Sometimes talking to an objective person can help. Oliver." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. "Thank you. I may take you up on that." The next morning, Michael left early for a property showing, kissing me goodbye with what I now recognized as performative affection. After I heard his BMW pull out of the driveway, I found myself doing something I had never done in 15 years of marriage. I searched through his belongings. I started with his study, a masculine room filled with real estate awards and photos from various industry events. His desk was meticulously organized, which made the small inconsistencies stand out even more. A receipt from a restaurant I had never been to, tucked between some client files. A credit card statement showing charges at expensive boutiques during times when he claimed to be in meetings. In his dresser drawer, hidden beneath a stack of undershirts, I found a small box I had never seen before. Inside was a delicate gold bracelet, clearly expensive, definitely not something he had ever given me. My hands shook as I held it up to the light streaming through our bedroom window. My phone rang, startling me so badly I nearly dropped the bracelet. It was my sister Anna, calling from Seattle. "Hey, how did the gala go last night?" she asked cheerfully. "I saw some photos on the hospital's Instagram. You looked gorgeous." I sat down heavily on the bed, still clutching the bracelet. "Anna, I need to tell you something." The change in my tone must have been obvious because her voice immediately became concerned. "Lily, what's wrong?" And so I told her everything. About Oliver, about the photograph, about what I had just found in Michael's drawer. Anna listened without interrupting, the way she had when we were kids and I needed someone to process my problems with. "Oh, honey," she said when I finished. "I'm so sorry. What are you going to do?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Part of me wants to pretend I never saw that photo, never found this bracelet. Our life is so established. The house, our friends, our reputation in the community. Starting over at 43 feels impossible. But can you really go back to not knowing?" Anna asked gently. "Can you sit across from him at dinner every night, sleep next to him every night, knowing what you know?" I looked around our bedroom, the room we had decorated together when we bought the house 8 years ago, the bed where we had made love just last week, the family photos on the nightstand. "I don't know," I repeated. "Listen," Anna said. "Why don't you come up to Seattle for a few days? Give yourself some space to think without having to perform the happy wife role." The idea was tempting, but I shook my head even though she couldn't see me. "I can't just disappear. Michael would know something was wrong, so let him wonder. Lily, you don't owe him a performance right now. You don't owe him anything." After we hung up, I sat in the quiet house for a long time, turning the gold bracelet over in my hands. Outside, I could hear our neighbor Mr. Patterson mowing his lawn, the sound of normal suburban life continuing, as if my world hadn't just shifted on its axis. Around noon, my phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "Lunch meeting running long. Don't wait up for dinner. Client wants to see more properties tonight." Love you. The casual lie, delivered so effortlessly, made something inside me snap. I grabbed my car keys and purse and drove to the address Oliver had included with his business card. His studio was in the Pearl District, a converted warehouse space filled with professional lighting equipment and enlarged photographs of Portland's landscapes and people. Oliver looked surprised to see me, but not unwelcoming. "Mrs. Thompson, how are you holding up?" "I found a bracelet," I said without preamble, "hidden in his dresser. I've never seen it before." Oliver's expression grew pained. "I'm sorry. That must have been difficult. Can I see the photograph again?" He hesitated. "Are you sure that's a good idea? I need to see it. I need to really look at it." Oliver pulled up the image on his computer, enlarging it on a large monitor. In the harsh light of day, away from the shock of the initial discovery, I could see details I had missed the night before. The way Michael's thumb traced circles on the woman's wrist. The intimate way she leaned into him. The obvious familiarity between them that spoke of more than just a casual encounter. "This isn't new," I realized aloud. "They've been together for a while." "I'm afraid that's what it looks like," Oliver agreed softly. I studied the woman's face more carefully. She was younger than me, probably early 30s, with the kind of effortless beauty that didn't require the careful maintenance I had become accustomed to. But more than her beauty, it was the joy on her face that struck me. She looked genuinely happy, completely absorbed in Michael's attention. "I used to look at him like that," I whispered. Oliver was quiet for a moment. "When was the last time you were genuinely happy, Mrs. Thompson? Not performing happiness, not going through the motions, but actually happy." The question caught me off guard. I tried to think back, searching through years of social events and dinner parties and perfectly arranged holiday celebrations. When was the last time I had laughed the way that woman was laughing in the photograph? "I don't remember," I admitted, and the truth of it hit me like a physical blow. "Maybe," Oliver said carefully, "this isn't just about your husband's betrayal. Maybe it's about what you've been betraying in yourself." As I drove home through the familiar streets of Portland, Oliver's words echoed in my mind. The city I had called home for over a decade suddenly felt like a place I was seeing for the first time. The coffee shops, where I met friends for careful conversations about nothing important. The boutiques, where I bought clothes to maintain an image I wasn't sure I had ever chosen for myself. The restaurants where Michael and I had shared countless dinners, talking about everything except what really mattered. I pulled into our driveway and sat in my car for several minutes, looking up at the house that had been my prison as much as my home. The perfectly manicured lawn, the expensive landscaping, the facade that said "successful couple lives here" to everyone who passed by. My phone buzzed with another text from Michael. "Property showing went great. Celebrating with client. Home late. Don't wait up." I typed back, "Okay, have fun." But as I hit send, I realized I was done pretending. Done performing. Done accepting lies dressed up as love. Tomorrow, I would confront him. Tonight, I would plan exactly what I was going to say. I spent the entire next day preparing for a conversation I had never imagined having. I rehearsed what I would say while folding laundry, practiced my tone while preparing a dinner I wasn't sure Michael would be home to eat, and tried to anticipate his responses while organizing our already pristine living room for the third time. By the time I heard his BMW in the driveway at 8:30, I had worked myself into a state of nervous determination. I was sitting at our dining room table, the gold bracelet placed deliberately in the center, when he walked through the front door. "Lily, sorry I'm late again. Traffic was murder coming back from Beaverton." His voice carried the easy confidence of someone who had never been caught in a lie. "In here?" I called, my voice steadier than I felt. Michael appeared in the doorway, loosening his tie, and stopped short when he saw the bracelet on the table. The color drained from his face so quickly that I almost felt sorry for him. "Sit down, Michael." He remained standing, his eyes fixed on the jewelry. "Lily, I can explain." "Sit down." Something in my tone made him comply. He pulled out the chair across from me, the same chair he had occupied for countless family dinners, holiday meals, and quiet Sunday mornings. But everything felt different now, charged with a tension that made the familiar seem foreign. "Whose bracelet is this?" I asked, even though we both knew I already knew the answer. Michael ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I had once found endearing. It's complicated. No, it's really not. It's either mine, which we both know it isn't, or it belongs to another woman. Which is it? He was quiet for so long I thought he might try to leave the room. Finally, he looked up at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. It's not mine to give away anymore. The admission hung in the air between us like smoke. Even though I had known, even though I had seen the photograph and found the evidence, hearing him confirm it still felt like a physical blow. How long? I asked. Lily. How long, Michael? He closed his eyes. 8 months. 8 months. I tried to calculate what had been happening in our lives 8 months ago. It was right after Christmas, when Michael had seemed distracted and distant. I had attributed it to post-holiday depression and the slow season in real estate. Instead, he had been falling in love with someone else. Who is she? Her name is Vanessa. She's a marketing consultant. I met her when she was helping rebrand one of my clients' businesses. Vanessa. Even her name sounded young and vibrant. Do you love her? The question surprised us both. I hadn't planned to ask it, but once it was out there, I realized it was the only question that really mattered. Michael's silence was answer enough, but he eventually nodded. Yes. And me? Do you love me? This time, his silence stretched so long that I started to count my heartbeats. 1, 2, 3, 4. I care about you, Lily. We have history, we have a life together. That's not what I asked. He looked down at the bracelet, then back at me. No, not the way I should. Not the way I love her. The honesty was brutal and somehow liberating at the same time. At least now I knew where I stood. Why didn't you just leave? I asked. Why all the lies and sneaking around? Michael laughed, but there was no humor in it. Because this life we built, it's not easy to walk away from. The house, our friends, your family who adores me, my business connections through your charity work. It's all so intertwined. So you thought you'd just have both? The respectable wife and the woman you actually want to be with. I never meant for it to go this far. In the beginning, I thought it was just, I don't know, a phase. Something I needed to get out of my system. I picked up the bracelet, feeling its weight in my palm. This doesn't look like a phase, Michael. This looks like a gift from someone who's planning to stick around. He didn't deny it. I saw you, I said quietly, at the hotel bar during the gala. There's a photograph. If I thought he had looked uncomfortable before, now he looked genuinely sick. You saw us. The photographer I hired saw you. He thought I should know. Michael put his head in his hands. God, Lily, I'm sorry. I never wanted you to find out like this. How did you want me to find out? Or were you planning to keep lying indefinitely? I don't know. I honestly don't know. We sat in silence for several minutes. Outside, I could hear the Pattersons' dog barking, the sound of children playing in the street, the normal sounds of suburban evening life. Inside our dining room, our marriage was finally ending with a conversation that was 15 years overdue. What do you want to do? I asked eventually. Michael looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. What do you mean? I mean, what happens now? Do you want to try to work this out? Do you want to end things with her and attempt couples therapy? Or do you want a divorce so you can be with Vanessa without sneaking around? The question seemed to catch him off guard, as if he had never considered that I might give him a choice in the matter. I don't want to hurt you any more than I already have. You can't unhurt me, Michael. The damage is done. What I'm asking is what you want for your future. He was quiet for a long time, staring at the bracelet on the table between us. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. I want to be with her. The words should have devastated me, but instead, I felt something I hadn't expected: relief. Not the crushing relief of a burden lifted, but the quiet relief of finally having the truth laid bare between us. Okay, I said. Okay. We'll figure out how to do this as respectfully as possible. We'll tell our families, divide our assets, and you can be with the person you want to be with. Michael stared at me as if I had started speaking a foreign language. You're not going to fight this? Demand couples therapy? Make this difficult? I considered his questions seriously. 3 days ago, I might have done all of those things. I might have begged him to choose me, promised to change, threatened to make his life miserable if he left. But something had shifted in me since seeing that photograph. What would be the point? I asked. You love someone else. You've been living a lie for 8 months, and honestly, I think we've both been living a lie much longer than that. What do you mean? I stood up and walked to the window overlooking our backyard. The garden I had meticulously planned and maintained looked beautiful in the evening light, but I realized I had never actually enjoyed working in it. It had been another performance, another way to play the role of the perfect suburban wife. When was the last time we talked about something that really mattered? I asked, turning back to face him. When was the last time we laughed together, really laughed? When was the last time we made love instead of just having sex? Michael's silence confirmed what I already knew. We've been roommates for years, Michael. Polite, considerate roommates who shared a bed and a mortgage and a social calendar. But we haven't been partners, haven't been lovers, haven't been friends. We could try. Could we? Really? If Vanessa wasn't in the picture, would you wake up tomorrow excited to work on our marriage? Would you look forward to spending time with me, talking to me, building a life with me? He opened his mouth to respond, then closed it. I didn't think so, I said softly. And you know what? Neither would I. The admission surprised me as much as it seemed to surprise him. I've been playing a role for so long that I forgot who I actually am underneath it all, I continued. The perfect wife, the charity organizer, the woman who always has dinner ready and never complains when you work late. But I don't think I was ever really happy being that person. Michael stood up and walked toward me, stopping just close enough that I could smell his cologne, the same scent he had been wearing when he held another woman's hand. Lily, I do care about you. I hope you know that. And I'm sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry for how I handled this. I nodded. I know you are. And I care about you too. But caring isn't enough to build a marriage on, is it? No, he agreed quietly. It's not. We stood there for a moment, two people who had shared 15 years of their lives, saying goodbye to the dreams they had once shared. I'll sleep in the guest room tonight, Michael said finally. Actually, I replied, I think I'd like some space to process all of this. I'm going to drive up to Seattle to stay with Anna for a few days. Are you sure? I looked around our dining room, at the expensive furniture we had carefully selected, the artwork we had chosen together, the life we had built that looked so perfect from the outside. None of it felt like mine anymore. Or maybe it had never really been mine to begin with. Yes, I said. I'm sure. As I packed a suitcase an hour later, Michael hovered in the doorway of our bedroom, watching me fold clothes with the same careful precision I brought to everything else in our life. What will you tell Anna? He asked. The truth. And your parents? Also the truth. He nodded, looking younger and more vulnerable than I had seen him in years. What about us? How do we do this? I zipped up my suitcase and turned to face him. We'll figure it out, Michael. We're both intelligent, reasonable adults. We can handle this with dignity. Will you be okay? The question was so sincere, so concerned, that for a moment I saw flashes of the man I had fallen in love with 20 years ago. Before the lies, before the performance, before we had both forgotten how to be real with each other. I don't know, I answered honestly. But I think, maybe for the first time in a long time, I have a chance to find out who I really am when I'm not trying to be who I think I should be. As I drove north toward Seattle that night, the city lights of Portland growing smaller in my rearview mirror, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: possibility. The future was terrifying and uncertain, but it was also mine to shape. For the first time in decades, I had no idea what came next. And surprisingly, that felt like freedom. Anna's apartment in Capitol Hill was everything my perfectly appointed house in Portland wasn't: cluttered, lived in, authentic. Books stacked on every surface, mismatched furniture that had been collected over years, rather than purchased as a set, and the kind of comfortable chaos that spoke of a life being actively lived rather than carefully curated. You look terrible, Anna said when she opened the door, then immediately pulled me into a fierce hug. And that's okay. You're supposed to look terrible right now. I had driven straight through from Portland, arriving at nearly midnight, my eyes puffy from crying and my usually perfect hair a mess from running my hands through it during the 4-hour drive. Anna took one look at me and led me to her couch, wrapping me in an oversized blanket that smelled like her lavender laundry detergent. Tell me everything, she said, settling cross-legged beside me with 2 cups of chamomile tea. So I did. I told her about the confrontation, about Michael's admission that he loved Vanessa, about the strange relief I had felt when he said he wanted to be with her. Anna listened without judgment, occasionally reaching over to squeeze my hand or pass me tissues. "I keep waiting to fall apart," I admitted as morning light began filtering through her windows. "I keep expecting to feel devastated, destroyed. But mostly I just feel empty. Like I've been holding my breath for years and finally let it out." "Maybe that's because the marriage has been over for a long time," Anna suggested gently. "Maybe this is just making it official." We talked until sunrise, and then Anna called in sick to work and declared it a sister recovery day. We spent the morning in Pike Place Market, wandering through the stalls, buying fresh flowers and artisanal cheese and crusty bread. Simple pleasures that I realized I had forgotten to enjoy in my pursuit of maintaining the perfect life. "When was the last time you did something just because you wanted to?" Anna asked as we sat by the water, eating our market finds and watching the ferries cross Elliott Bay. I thought about it seriously. "I honestly can't remember." "What do you want to do now?" "Not what you should do, not what's expected of you, but what you actually want." The question was harder to answer than it should have been. I had become so accustomed to defining my wants in terms of other people's needs that I wasn't sure I remembered how to access my own desires. "I want to take photographs," I said suddenly, surprising myself. "Photographs?" I used to love photography in college. I had this old 35mm camera that I took everywhere. I wanted to be a photojournalist, travel the world, document real life. I laughed, but there was sadness in it. I haven't thought about that in years. What happened to that dream? I met Michael. I got practical. Photography didn't seem like a stable career, and he needed a wife who could support his business ambitions. I shook my head. "Listen to me. He needed a wife who could support his ambitions." "What about my ambitions?" Anna was quiet for a moment, watching a seagull dive for fish in the choppy water. "It's not too late, you know. You're 43, not 93. That afternoon, we wandered through a camera shop in Fremont, and I found myself drawn to the digital SLRs with the same fascination I had felt for cameras in college. The salesperson, a young woman with paint-stained fingers and passionate eyes, explained the different features and capabilities with enthusiasm. "Are you just starting out, or returning to photography?" she asked. "Returning," I said, and the word felt significant somehow. "After a very long break. I bought a camera that day, not top of the line, but good quality and full of possibilities." Anna watched me examine it with the first genuine excitement she had seen from me in years. "You look different when you hold that," she observed. "Different how?" "Alive." That evening, Michael called. Anna answered my phone first, screening the call with the protective instincts of a younger sister who had always looked out for me. "He sounds sober and apologetic," she reported. "Do you want to talk to him?" I took the phone, stepping out onto Anna's small balcony for privacy. "How are you doing?" Michael asked immediately. "I'm okay. Processing. I've been thinking about what you said, about us being roommates instead of partners. You were right, Lily. We both deserved better than what we had." The admission was generous, more generous than I had expected from him. "Thank you for saying that. I called a lawyer today. I want to make sure you're taken care of, that this division is fair. The house, the investments, everything. I want you to be secure." I watched a homeless man push a shopping cart down the street below and thought about how dramatically my definition of security was shifting. "I appreciate that. There's something else," Michael said hesitantly. "Vanessa wants to meet you." The request was so unexpected that I nearly dropped the phone. "She wants to what?" "I know it sounds strange, but she feels terrible about how this all happened. She didn't know about you at first. I told her I was separated. By the time she learned the truth, we were already involved. She's been carrying a lot of guilt." I tried to process this information. The other woman wanted to meet me, wanted to apologize for unknowingly participating in the destruction of my marriage. Part of me was curious about her, this person who had inspired such passion in my husband. Another part of me felt it would be too painful, too strange. "I need to think about it," I said finally. "Of course. There's no pressure. I just wanted you to know," she offered. After we hung up, I told Anna about the conversation. She looked as bewildered as I felt. "That's either really mature or really weird," she said. "I can't decide which. Maybe both." The next morning, I woke up before dawn and took my new camera to Discovery Park. The early morning light was perfect for photography, soft and golden, casting long shadows through the trees. I hadn't held a camera with serious intent in over 20 years, but my hands seemed to remember the weight of it, the way to frame a shot, the patience required to wait for the perfect moment. I photographed everything. Dewdrops on spiderwebs, joggers running past with their dogs, the way the light hit the water in the distance. Each click of the shutter felt like a small act of reclamation, a way of seeing the world through my own eyes again instead of through the lens of what I thought others expected to see. When I returned to Anna's apartment, I was surprised to find her awake and making coffee. "You look different," she said, echoing her observation from the camera shop. "I feel different." I scrolled through the images on my camera's LCD screen. I forgot how much I love this, how much I love paying attention to details, finding beauty in unexpected places. Maybe that's what you need to focus on right now. Not the divorce, not Michael, not what comes next with your living situation. Just this, just finding things that make you feel alive again. I spent the next 3 days exploring Seattle with my camera. I photographed the market vendors at Pike Place, the street musicians in Pioneer Square, the architectural details of buildings I had walked past dozens of times without really seeing. Anna came with me sometimes, but often I went alone, rediscovering the solitary pleasure of creative work. On my 4th day in Seattle, I made a decision that surprised even me. I called Michael. "I want to meet her," I said without preamble. "Vanessa." "Yes. If the offer is still open, I think I'd like to meet her." Michael was quiet for a moment. "Are you sure? You don't have to do this, Lily." "I know I don't have to, but I want to understand. I want to see what you see in her, who she is beyond just the woman who ended my marriage." We arranged to meet at a coffee shop in downtown Portland the following Saturday. Neutral territory, public enough to feel safe, quiet enough to have a real conversation. I drove back to Portland on Friday, steeling myself for what felt like one of the strangest encounters of my life. The coffee shop was in the Pearl District, not far from Oliver's photography studio. I arrived early and chose a table near the window, my camera bag at my feet like a security blanket. I had dressed carefully, not to compete or impress, but to feel like myself, whatever that meant anymore. Vanessa arrived exactly on time, and I recognized her immediately from Oliver's photograph, though seeing her in person was different. She was beautiful, but not in the polished way I had expected. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a messy bun. She wore minimal makeup, and her dress was simple and elegant rather than flashy. She looked nervous. "Lily!" She approached my table hesitantly. "Yes. Vanessa, I assume." She nodded and sat down across from me, her hands fidgeting with her purse strap. "Thank you for agreeing to meet. I wasn't sure you would." Up close, I could see that she was younger than me, but not as young as I had imagined. Early 30s, as I had guessed, with laugh lines around her eyes and a warmth that seemed genuine. "I have to admit, I'm not entirely sure why I agreed," I said honestly. "But here we are." Vanessa ordered coffee when the server came by, and we sat in awkward silence for a moment. Finally, she spoke. "I need you to know that I didn't know about you at first. Michael told me, he was separated, that you were just living together until the divorce was finalized for financial reasons. I believed him. When did you learn the truth?" "About 3 months ago. I started asking questions about why the divorce was taking so long, why I never saw any paperwork, why he wouldn't introduce me to his friends." She looked down at her hands. "When I confronted him, he admitted that you didn't know about me, that you weren't actually separated. But you didn't end it." Vanessa's cheeks flushed. "No, I didn't. And I know how that makes me look, but by then I was in love with him. And he kept promising he would tell you, that he would handle it. I kept believing him because I wanted to believe him." I studied her face, looking for signs of deception or manipulation, but all I saw was genuine remorse and discomfort. "What do you do for work?" I asked, changing the subject. "Marketing consulting, mostly for small businesses. I help them rebrand, develop their online presence, that kind of thing." "Do you enjoy it?" The question seemed to catch her off guard. "Yes, actually. I love helping people figure out how to tell their story, how to present their authentic selves to the world." The irony wasn't lost on either of us. "I want to ask you something. I said after the server brought Vanessa's coffee. And I hope you'll be honest with me. Okay. Do you make him happy? Really happy. Not just infatuated or excited, but genuinely content. Vanessa considered the question seriously. I think so. When we're together, he laughs more than I imagine he has in years. He talks about dreams he'd forgotten he had, places he wants to travel, things he wants to try. He seems lighter. I nodded, recognizing the man she was describing. It was the Michael I had fallen in love with in college, before responsibilities and expectations had weighted him down. He makes me happy too, Vanessa continued quietly. I know that probably sounds selfish, given the circumstances, but it's true. It doesn't sound selfish. It sounds honest. We talked for over an hour. About Michael, yes, but also about our work, our families, our hopes for the future. Vanessa was intelligent and thoughtful, with a dry sense of humor that I could see Michael appreciating. She wasn't the home-wrecking seductress I had imagined, but rather a woman who had made some questionable choices while following her heart. Can I ask you something now? Vanessa said as we prepared to leave. Sure. Are you going to be okay? I mean really okay? I thought about the question, about the camera in my bag, about the photographs I had taken in Seattle, about the strange lightness I had been feeling despite everything. I think so, I said honestly. I think this might be the best thing that could have happened to both of us, actually. Vanessa looked surprised. Really? Michael and I were living a lie, Vanessa. Not just him lying to me about you, but both of us lying to ourselves about what our marriage had become. We were going through the motions of being happy without actually being happy. I'm still sorry it happened this way. So am I. But I'm not sorry it happened. As I walked back to my car, I felt a strange sense of closure. Vanessa wasn't a villain, and neither was Michael, really. They were just two people who had found something real together, even if the circumstances were messy and painful. That evening, I called Oliver. Mrs. Thompson? How are you doing? Please, call me Lily. And I'm doing surprisingly well. I'm glad to hear that. I wanted to thank you again for telling me the truth that night. It couldn't have been easy. It wasn't, but it was the right thing to do. I have a proposition for you, I said. I just bought a camera, and I'm trying to get back into photography after a 20-year hiatus. Would you be interested in having coffee sometime? Maybe sharing some tips with someone who's trying to rediscover an old passion. Oliver was quiet for a moment. I'd like that very much. We made plans to meet the following week, and after I hung up, I realized I was smiling. Not the careful, practiced smile I had perfected for social events, but a genuine expression of anticipation. A month later, I moved out of the house in the West Hills. Michael and I had worked out the divorce details with surprising civility. He kept the house and most of the investments, while I took a smaller but comfortable financial settlement and my freedom. I found a small apartment in the Alberta district, a neighborhood I had always found interesting but never considered living in when image was so important. The apartment was nothing like the house I was leaving behind. It was smaller, older, quirkier. The floors creaked, the kitchen was tiny, and there was no room for entertaining large groups. But it had huge windows that let in incredible natural light, and I could afford it comfortably on my own. For the first time in my adult life, I was living in a space that was entirely mine. Oliver and I had been meeting regularly for coffee, sharing photography tips, and exploring Portland together with our cameras. He was teaching me about digital photography techniques, while I shared some of the composition principles I remembered from my film photography days. Our friendship was easy and uncomplicated, built on a shared passion rather than social expectations. You're getting really good at this, Oliver said one afternoon as we reviewed the photos I had taken at the Saturday market. Have you thought about doing anything more formal with your photography? What do you mean? I mean, these are good enough to show. Maybe think about putting together a small exhibition or starting a photography business. The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. I'm 43 years old, Oliver. Isn't it a little late to start over with a new career? My grandmother started painting at 65 and had her first gallery show at 72, he replied. It's never too late to become who you were meant to be. That evening, I called Anna to tell her about Oliver's suggestion. Do it, she said immediately. What's the worst that could happen? You try something new and maybe fail? You've already survived the worst failure staying in a marriage that wasn't making either of you happy. 3 months after my divorce was finalized, I had my first photography exhibition. It was small, just a corner of a local gallery during their monthly community artist night, but it was mine. The photographs I displayed were from my months of rediscovering Portland, candid street scenes, architectural details, portraits of people I had met while wandering the city with my camera. Michael came to the opening, which surprised me. He brought Vanessa, which surprised me even more. But their presence didn't feel awkward or painful. It felt like acknowledgement or recognition that we had all moved forward into new versions of ourselves. "These are beautiful, Lily," Michael said, studying a photograph I had taken of an elderly man feeding pigeons in Tomahawk Waterfront Park. "You always had an eye for this. I'm sorry I never encouraged you to pursue it." "We both made choices," I replied. "I'm just glad I'm making different ones now." Vanessa approached a series of portraits I had taken of women of various ages, all of them captured in moments of genuine laughter or contemplation. "These are incredible," she said. "There's something so honest about them, so real." "That's what I'm trying to capture," I said. "Authentic moments. People being themselves instead of performing for the camera." As the evening wound down and the gallery began to empty, Oliver appeared at my elbow with a glass of wine and a huge grin. "So," he asked, "how does it feel to be a real photographer again?" I looked around the gallery, at my photographs hanging on the walls, at the business cards I had made with my name and contact information, at the red dots next to 3 of my pieces indicating they had sold. "It feels like coming home," I said. "Good," Oliver replied, "because I have a proposition for you." "What kind of proposition?" "There's a documentary project I've been wanting to pursue about small business owners in Portland. I could use a partner, someone with your eye for capturing authentic human moments." The offer was unexpected and exciting. "Are you asking me to work with you?" "I'm asking if you want to try being a professional photographer. For real this time." I thought about the woman I had been a year ago, perfectly dressed, perfectly behaved, perfectly miserable. Then I thought about the woman I was becoming, Messier, more uncertain, but infinitely more alive. "Yes," I said. "I want to try." 6 months later, I was sitting in my favorite coffee shop in the Alberta district, editing photographs from our documentary project on my laptop. The morning light was streaming through the large windows, and I had my second cup of coffee at my elbow. My small apartment had been transformed into a combination living space and photography studio, with prints hanging on every available wall surface. My phone buzzed with a text from Anna. "Saw the article about your photography project in the Portland Monthly. So proud of you. You look happy in that photo." I pulled up the article online and smiled at the image they had used me and Oliver working together in his studio, both of us focused on a contact sheet, discussing which images to include in our exhibition. I did look happy. More than happy, I looked engaged, purposeful, alive. Another text came through, this one from Michael. "Congratulations on the article. You deserve all the recognition you're getting. Hope you're well." I typed back, "Thank you. I hope you and Vanessa are happy." And I meant it. The anger and hurt had faded, replaced by something I hadn't expected, gratitude. Michael's betrayal had forced me to confront the truth about our marriage, about myself, about the life I had been settling for instead of the life I actually wanted. That afternoon, I had a meeting with a potential client, a local nonprofit that wanted me to document their work with homeless youth. It was exactly the kind of meaningful project I had dreamed about in college, the kind of work that felt important rather than just profitable. As I walked to their offices, camera bag slung over my shoulder, I caught my reflection in a storefront window. The woman looking back at me was different from the one who had stood in that hotel ballroom 9 months ago, posing for photographs while her world crumbled around her. This woman looked confident, purposeful, genuinely content. The photographer had stopped taking pictures that night because he saw something that changed everything. But in the end, it wasn't his photographs that mattered most, it was the ones I had started taking of my own life, finally seeing it clearly for the first time. I was 44 years old, divorced, starting over in a career I had abandoned decades ago. By the standards of the life I had been living, I should have felt like a failure. Instead, I felt like I was finally becoming the person I had always been meant to be. The future was uncertain, full of questions I didn't yet have answers to. But for the first time in years, I was excited to find out what came next. And I was going to document every moment of it.